Hello there, welcome to my first Rust vlog on Rustrover, the new Jetbrains IDE, which was brought in preview last Wednesday, the 13th of September, and we'll see whether it's any good. One big caveat is that it is a preview version, as I already mentioned, so it's not the finished product. It should be good, but we'll see. First of all, we'll start it up. A nice splash screen. I already did something with it, so we'll make sure we'll make new. This is how you get the main menu by clicking on those three stripes, the hamburger menu, I believe it's called. New project. And I don't want it here, I want it in my Rust. There we go. As you can see, I'm using the latest version, latest stable version of Rust. And I'm going to build a binary. We're going to build a small web API, a very small web API, which handles events. An event in this case has an ID, which is just a number, a name, a description, and a location. That's all there is to it. Of course, it could be more extensive. It could have a start date and an end date. It could be active. It could be cancelled. All those kinds of things, but we're not going to that, just for simplicity's sake. Click Create. We'll use this window. And we'll make sure that Microsoft Defender is not in the way. Let's see whether we can run it. Yes, it runs. No problem there. So, what do we need for a web API? We need, of course, some form of API framework, which we will use Actix in this case, which is well known and very, very fast. For the database, we'll use Diesel as an ORM. There's no particular reason why, I just like Diesel. Before we can do that, we have to add these things, and we'll do that through the terminal. Unfortunately, that is my first point of criticism towards the Rustrover. There's no such thing as a cargo panel. At least I didn't find it. Maybe there is, but it's not very obvious. That is why we have to do it through the terminal. It's not that hard. The first thing we'll have to do is install the Diesel CLI. No default features, another point of okay, that is easy, it's already there. Another point of criticism is why does the rover highlight the text like that? Because it's totally illegible. Now it's time to add the packages. We'll start with Actix Web, and I'll just use the cargo add command. Then we add 30. All these commands you can find in the article, for which you will find a description or a link in the description, sorry. Use Postgres. R2D2 is the connection pooling manager. Chrono for the time. You need to be able to read environment variables. You need to be able to log. The pooling, database pooling. Sorry. And this highlighting is rather annoying. And we need migrations for auto migrations later on. Let's build now. It's still updating and indexing. See if it all still works. Takes a while. But we're almost there. I do this now to prevent long compilation times later on. For your information, I'm filming this on a 16 gig laptop with 500 gigs of free disk space. Okay, done. Now we need to add an environment file. That is just a file called .env with one line in it. Postgres, because that is the database we're going to use. Mind you, the password here is not my production password. Save it. There we go. Before we can go on, we need to make this database. I already started pgadmin, and it's called web events rover owner is Postgres. There we go. Let's go back to the terminal. Can now say diesel setup. and you can see migrations directory appear. I will make a first migration. Like diesel migration generate, create events. Easy. You'll see that we have a directory called date and time, create events, and with the down.sql and up.sql. Some explanation. I won't explain everything because it's about Rustrover, not about Diesel or Actix or Rust. But down.sql is rolling back the migration. Up.sql is making the migration. So well, without much ado, we'll put in the table creation here, and we'll put in the table destruction in the down. Now run it. And with a little bit of luck, we should be able to see it in the tables. Yes. First of all, we see the migrations, which is something Diesel uses to do some bookkeeping for the migrations. And we see the events table and see if the columns are correct. Yes, they are correct. So that went well. Next, in the source directory, we'll make a models directory. And we move the schema to here. This is called a refactor in Rustrover, which is also the name for it if you would do it in any of the other JetBrains IDEs. You don't need to have a look at it, but we need to update Diesel TOML, and instead of source.schema.rs, you have to do models.schema. Now it's time to create the models file. First of all, we'll do the mod.rs. And now we'll add the models file. Just paste it in. It's all my own code, by the way. Short explanation, we need to serialize the events to JSON in this case. We need to be able to query the events, we need to be able to insert, we need to be able to update, and update also includes deletion. Every of these two structs needs to know which table it has to go to, in this case the events table, and the capabilities of each struct are defined in the derive attribute, like insertable, queryable, serializable, debug and clone as utility attributes. And the same goes for new event. The big difference between new event and event, see if I can show them both, is that event has an ID, and as you could see in the database, that is a primary key, which is serial, and the new event doesn't have that. The new event is used to create event because we don't know the ID beforehand. It doesn't need the ID. It might even cause an error. Now we need to update this. You have to say we need a schema in here, and we need to models in here, and we attach it to the main.rs. That's all there is to it. As you can see, Rustrover really helps with referencing, with the modules, with helpful suggestions. So, let's go on, and before we can do anything, we need to implement our database. That is the main thing. So we'll make a repository directory in our source. Directory, repository, and we added database.rs here. And again, mod.rs. It might be a nice extension if modules could be generated automatically by Rustrover. Now let's go into the database. We'll need the usual suspects to be imported, like the diesel and the .env, and we need the event struct we just defined. And we need, well, this is a kind of nice shorthand for the DB pool, because we want to pool the connections that can enhance the performance. That is what we want as Rust programmers, performance. Build a small database struct, and we implement the database. And I won't go over every detail of this. So if I click this, nothing much. In short, the new method creates the database struct, and it provides it with a connection pool, which is built in this way. By the way, in the description you can find a link to the GitHub repository where you can find every bit of the source code. You have to, this new line can go, as well as this one. Create event uses the ORM, the diesel ORM, because that is what it is. The self.pool.get.unwrap call is used to get a connection from the pool, or a connection from the pool. That is all there is to it. One nice thing I have to say is that we return self instead of database, which is much nicer if you ask me. If you go to the mod, you say pub mod database, and we attach it to the main.rs. Nice. Next, we need to be able to serve all of this. So we say create a handless directory with a mod.rs, of course, and a handless.rs. Again, import everything. And we start with the first method, which is just getting a list of the events, if there are any. You can also return an empty list. Next, we get a specific event. I have to explain something. You see there the DB, the web data database parameter. That is a thing that is injected by Actix. You can define web data in Actix, and that is what is injected, in fact. The injection itself takes place in the main.rs file, in our case. Here we have the root events/id between curly braces. That is a route parameter. You can see in the path that we have a web path with an i32 as generic parameter, and the inner call gets that number from the path, from the route. I won't go into too much detail. I probably will do a vlog about this at some length and to some detail as well. What must be noticed is that we define the HTTP verb, in this case get, in the attribute. But we'll see some more variations on this topic. Here, for instance, we have a delete verb, as we should. We want to delete a certain event. We want to update it, and we want to create it. And here we see the new event, which is passed to the method as a JSON body. It's passed in a request body. If something goes wrong with that, it panics. And if it isn't, the event gets inserted, and if that goes well, get an OK. And if it didn't, get an error. As you can see, the last 3 methods have an OK or error match branches. That's it. And because we need to be able to access these routes, we have an initRoutes method, and that just defines the different routes in the web API. Let's see if it still builds. And it doesn't. I'm afraid of that. Because that should be events. Okay. Now everything is okay. Just complains about things not getting used. At least I think it does. Yes, it does. Now go over to the main.rs file. I'm missing something. We need to handle this, of course. again. Import everything we need. Need to define some response of our own. And we need to be able to run migrations automatically or automagically if you want. That is how this is done. And we need to have a run migration method as well. As you can see, we have a let underscore, which means that we don't care about the result of the run pending migration score, which we don't at this moment. Why do we do this? Because at some point we want to deploy this thing, and if we deploy, for instance, to Kubernetes, which I might do in a new flog or a further flog, we can't usually reach the database to run the migrations. And besides, we want to run the migrations automatically when we restart the server. Then we have two utility methods. We have the health call, which is a get verb, which can be used as a health probe in Kubernetes. And we have a not found error, which is the default service, as we shall see later. Finally, we come to the main method. It needs to have this attribute, and it needs to be async. And main, in this case, returns something. But we don't want to print hello world anymore. Let's build the database. Repository, database, new. That's how we create a database. Then we need to run the migrations on this database. And we need to put this database into the app data. That is how we do that. Next, we configure the logger. As you can see, autocomplete works quite well in the rover. Default filter all. We want to see everything, so we'll do the info and we'll initialize this thing. Now it's time to define the server, which I will cut and paste. Short description. We insert the app data, as I was talking about before. We pass the routes in the service config. We add the health service. We also add a default service, which is a not found service. And we wrap the whole thing in a logger. Then we bind it to the local host, we run it, and we await. That's all there is to it. Now let's see if we can run it. Fear not. No. always exciting. No, it doesn't run. Why? This exit code 3 stumped me for quite a while. It has to do with the fact that I'm using Postgres. Not that there's much wrong with Postgres, but there's something wrong with one of the DLLs. So what I need to do is copy this. I'll put the link to the solution and the link to the download in the description of this video. You go to Projects, Rust, Rustrover, Rust, sorry, you couldn't see it. Project Rustrover, basically where I put my project in the target, debug, and just copy it. Just 94K, not that big. Now if I run it now, I get this. This is because I'm running on Windows. It's starting 6 workers. Actix usually starts, the number of workers in Actix, I want to say, is basically the same as the number of cores in your processor. But that's 6 in my case. You can change that, but it is usually the most optimal configuration. Now let's try. I already started up Postman. Let's see if we can post something. Hooray! It works. Let's see if we see something in the log. Yes, we do. You see a post, and you see that it is very, very fast. Not surprising, because it's a small database. I'm the only user. Let's see if we can see whether it's really stored that thing in the database. You can also look in the database, but it is not very nice. Let's see if I reload it. Yes, it stored it. No problem. The only glitch here, and that has nothing to do with Rustrover, was the DLL, which was missing. And I hope the maintainers of Postgres or of this DLL or whoever find a way to deal with this, because it's rather annoying. So let's stop this. And let's see if we can debug this. So I go into the handlers. Let's see if we can find the get event, which is a specific event thing. Let's see if it gets the right ID. Click the debug button. And number 3 doesn't exist, I realize. Path. Let's see what is in there. Can't even see that. Event is an option. Yes, that is true. Let's see if we can see what's in there. No, we can't. That is one of my gripes with the current debugging mode in Rustrover. Things like options, probably results as well, not very clear when you're debugging. That is also the same for the normal Rust plugin in Visual Studio Code, for instance. I don't know why this is. Might be handy if there's no value here. Let's see what happens. None, of course, because 3 doesn't exist. And let's continue. Not found. Let's see what happens if I put in an idea which works, or it should work. Value. Sum. And we get the data back. Let's run it. We get things back. So, in conclusion, we can say that it is good. It is a preview, and it looks promising, but there are still some, well, how should we say, rough edges. But on the whole, I would say that it's a huge improvement over other environments, and the Jetbrain should go on with this. I'll keep an eye on it. If there's an update to Rustrover, or to my knowledge about Rustrover, I'll make another video or another blog. Thank you for watching. And please subscribe to my channel.